guys, how you doing? It's Henry at Motors and Blowers. Man, am I sore. As you know from a previous episode, yesterday, I went to my mom's house to cut that huge tree limb. It was a pretty interesting episode because I tested all the electric handheld chainsaws that I had in my possession, which I got from Review. They all work great. Just as a backup, I also brought my 20-inch Outlaw Remington gas chainsaw, which I needed to use to finish the tree limbs because of the thickness of the trunk. I brought about 75% of the logs home because I was just so exhausted that I had to leave some behind. But anyway, I gotta unload this later. But the guy that I fixed his Skag 48 Tiger Cub zero turn in a previous episode, he asked me if I would take a look at his backpack blower. So he told me he left it in the back on the side of my house with the garbage cans. Let's find out what kind of blower it is. He's a Husqvarna man. I think Husqvarna's overrated, to be honest with you. I haven't had really great Husqvarna products. Well, this is beefy. Look at the size of that tube. You can tell that this is a pretty good backpack blower that is used for mostly commercial use. This is a little overkill for residential. I've never had one like this before. This is a 580Bfs. His complaint is that it doesn't run right. Apparently it runs, but it doesn't run right. Whatever that means. It could mean fuel filter. It could mean high-low air-fuel mixture screw adjustment. Could mean a clogged carb, but if he's been using this on a daily basis for his work as a landscaper, there shouldn't be any settling time that would cause it to be clogged, you know? Unless, of course, the fuel filter is bad and something got sucked in there and it got clogged. But let's try to start this up and see what it sounds like. So it has a momentary stop switch, kind of like my Red Max. Has a throttle control on the thumb. So we'll raise it to like a quarter way up. Nothing on there. It's decently heavy. Could be the air filter too. Maybe it hasn't been used. He has gas in it, about half a tank, and it looks like it's mixed because it's dark and black. And if you look at it, it's blue. Very blue, actually. But I'll assume that it's the right mixture. Up on this red is choke. Down is run. Let's prime it. The fuel lines look okay. Not cracked. I don't see any apparent leaks. I don't know what this is. All right, let's try to start it, see what it sounds like. Well, doesn't seem to start. Let's put it to run. Okay, so as you saw, right, I was kind of confused because he said it didn't run right. But as you saw, I fired it up and it ran great. So strong that I almost feel like it's better than my Red Max. However, as you saw, after using it for about 2 or 3 minutes on high throttle, it started to bog down and lose power. What's also confusing... So what was confusing was that, of course, I tried to start this on choke, which you're supposed to, right? If you see, up is choke, down is full run. Well, it only started on full run, and it ran that way the whole time. Or wait a minute. Oh, it ran faster when I put it back on choke, so that must mean the carburetor's clogged. You know what I'm saying? All that time that I was running it, it was running on choke. So with choke, when the engine is warmed up, you know, you're blocking all the air that's going in there, so it's lack of air. So if we take it back to run, will it run that way? It probably won't. So the carburetor's clogged. It's not the magneto. or it could be the air filter too. So we're gonna take this thing off, and I'm gonna check out and confirm the choke run thing, because if the whole thing was running on choke, that would be the reason why it kind of bogged down, because after the engine's hot, you got to let more air in there, you know. So there's probably the carburetor is dirty and needs to be cleaned for it to be running well. But I gotta tell you, even running full throttle on choke, it has a lot of power. I mean, I'm almost gonna say that it compares pretty well to the Red Max. Let me just try something here. Obviously, I was wearing this, right? So it was difficult to do this. But let's put it on run and see if it'll go full throttle. It won't. See, it won't run on full throttle. It won't stay running. Getting all the air in the fuel mixture, it won't run. So let's open up the air cleaner, check that out, the condition of it. That's very clean, see? Very clean air cleaner with the foam pre-filter, it's clean. Well, now it's getting fresh air through here without a filter. See if it runs now. Okay, put it to choke. It's on full throttle. It only runs really well on choke, and then when I slowly move it down to run, it bogs down and dies. So I think it's a carburetor problem. So the cover for the carburetor is actually the tube that leads to the top air filter base cover box housing assembly. Loosen this so we can pivot it or remove it altogether. A lot of oil in here. And I'm talking thick oil, two-stroke oil, not mix. Strange. Why would it be there? It's in the carburetor too. A lot of oils in the carburetor, which would cause it to do that. That's really unusual for it to be leaking two-stroke oil when the mix is already in the tank, you know what I mean? Unless it's over mixed, unless the fuel is too but then you would find a ton of, well, that seems okay. That's odd why there's so much oil in here. The oil could cause it to do that too. But where's the oil coming from? That's the thing. There's 3 screws that hold this together. Third one's coming out now. Remember the orientation that it goes? Let's just confirm that choke is up. Run. That doesn't make any sense, see? Run should be wide open, but the hole is closed. How is that possible? Did they get the labeling wrong? I mean, choke is this, and both holes are open. I'm not kidding, look. Look at this. Person that worked on this last reversed the thing. It's this way. He had this thing upside down. So full run is up, which this is correct, and then choke is down, and now it's closing the holes. So this one was on wrong, but that still doesn't explain, and it shows primer bulb below here, see, which it is. Before it had the primer bulb on top, which doesn't make any sense. So this was just reversed, but it still doesn't explain why it wants to bog down after using it for a while. So now I'm thinking it could be the magneto on its way out. You following? So it's running on full run. Let's raise the throttle. It just stopped. So I have an explanation for why there was so much two-stroke oil that's built up around this area. Once I took this this channel out, right, it was filled with two-stroke oil. And the reason why is when you have this on high throttle, right, there's an exhaust that comes out of the carburetor mouth that's all oil. So it's burning the fuel, but the excess oil that's not being burnt from the mix is shooting out. So that means that the oil fuel mixture is too much oil. It's more like 20 to 1 as opposed to 50 to 1. But still, as you can see, you run it on high throttle for about a minute or two, right? And it'll stop. So, I mean, I don't think it's the carburetor because it wouldn't run so smooth. You know what I mean? It does run on its own and starts just fine. If the carburetor was clogged, you wouldn't be able to get it to start easily, nor would it run on its own so smoothly. So I don't think it's the carburetor. I think it's probably the ignition coil or magneto. After it gets hot, it'll stop. Or it could be the spark arrestor. The spark arrestor in the muffler is clogged, therefore not enough exhaust is getting out. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen any smoke come out of the muffler at all. But first, I have to get something from here. You know what this is? This is the flywheel for the Kawasaki 420V, whatever that thing, you know. The Kawasaki engine that I was given, and I took it apart because I couldn't get it running again because it had needed a valve job and things were broken on it, whatever. So I took it apart to sell it for parts. I've made over $300 on parts alone from that engine, which I was about to throw away. So I sold this for 70 bucks on eBay. Doesn't even have any magnets. Pull start type flywheel, but it's pretty beefy. 70 bucks. So there you go. Don't throw away those engines, sell the parts off of it. So at this point, I don't think it's the carburetor. It could still be the magneto, but I think it could be the spark arrestor. So we're going to remove that. And what happens with spark arrestors is over time, a lot of carbon buildup clogs that mesh screen and prevents exhaust, which would kind of explain why we haven't seen any smoke coming out of it at all. So we're going to remove that plate there. It looks like it's very conveniently located with some torque screws. We'll take that out. There's the cover for it. And unfortunately, it doesn't look bad at all. I don't think it's a spark arrestor. Look. It's clear. So now I think it might be the magneto. I was hoping that this was completely blocked. So, running it for about a minute, minute and a half, it just stops. And that's after everything gets hot. I can feel the warmth of it heating up. So it's not the spark arrestor, it's definitely not the carburetor, because if it was the carburetor, it wouldn't run on its own for that full minute at full throttle, you know? Although there are a lot of things that are loose here. Look at this. These screws need to be tightened up. And also look over here. Doesn't that need to match these? This has to be pushed in more. I'm going to try turning this screw in a little bit more for him. Tightening up these screws, but I mean, I think it's the ignition coil, right? Magneto. When that's on its way out, after it heats up, it loses its spark. That's all I can think of right now. As you could see, I took off the cover to everything, removed the spark plug. Recoil starter had to be removed before you can take these off. It's like 4 screws around that thing, 4 screws, Torx for the recoil starter. I put the spark arrestor mesh back on again. I still have the cover and all that stuff for the carburetor still off. I hope I remember how to put it back on. But I just removed the spark plug. This is the condition of the spark plug. Not so good, but would a new spark plug be the cause of that problem? Only thing to do is to try. And then if that's not it, it's probably the ignition coil, which is right there. Here's the spark plug boot. Wire goes over here to this thing right there. This is the ignition coil. I mean, visually, just from naked eye, it looks fine, but you never can tell with those things. But let's try a new spark plug. I mean, it does look old and pretty worn, and it's been running very rich. So I don't have a spark plug this size, but I do have a spark plug this size. This is for a weed whacker maybe? Anyway, it is the same exact length going in there. It's just longer over here on the electrode. I'm gonna try it. Sure is gonna beat this, right? Okay, so it's not the spark plug. Ran it for about a minute and a half, did the same thing. But I waited like 5 minutes only, started up again, still ran for another minute or something like that. So the ignition coil was still hot, but yet it still managed to start again and run for another minute. So then I removed the muffler, and I'm looking at the piston to see if it was compression, you know, that the piston and rings are scored badly, which is a very common problem with these two-stroke machines. But I'm looking at the piston right now. I'm going to get it to the top so you can see it. There you go. And it's good. I mean, it's brown, but it's still good. I mean, maybe some slight scoring, but that's not enough to, you know, compromise the compression so much. I'm gonna try to pull this while I'm holding the camera for you. I'm gonna get a tripod, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna pull it so you can see. And there's the top right there. And it looks good. I mean, not new, but I don't think it's the compression. It looks fine. You can see the bore a little bit too. Looks fine. I mean, rings could be compressed, but it runs just fine. It's just it dies after a minute. The piston doesn't look to be scored, so that's not it either. So the only thing I can think of is the ignition coil. I put that back because I'm sure it's not the carburetor, right? You guys agree? It runs fine for a minute or two. If the carburetor was dirty or clogged, it wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm ruling out the carburetor. There's nothing wrong with it. Next thing I did was I pulled the fuel filter out of here, okay? And it's one of those really good quality ones too. And I took it off and I blew into it, and even tried the suck, and it's very clear. There's nothing wrong with this fuel filter. I could just replace it with another one, but this is a very good quality fuel filter. You know what I mean? I don't want to replace it with a cheaper one that could fail. Well, actually, look at this. This thing just broke, but I think that's me, so I don't think it's the fuel filter. Look. I can inhale and blow freely with that. There's no clogs. This part here is very rubbery, and I think just me trying to put it on, it snapped. It's all right. So I'm gonna call Jay, the owner of this thing. I'm gonna tell him that I troubleshooted for over an hour, and I checked everything, and the only thing it could be is that makes sense is the magneto or ignition coil. It's the only thing it could be. Other than that, I am at a loss. I don't know what to do. But I don't know. I think you guys might agree it's probably the ignition coil. It's the only thing that controls the spark. You know what I mean? And engine runs fine. Carburetor runs fine. You check the piston. There's no scoring on the piston after taking off the muffler. It's not the spark arrestor. It's not the recoil starter. Change the spark plug. It's not the spark plug. The only thing it could be is the ignition coil. So I'll ask him if he wants me to buy it, and we could try it. There's no guarantees. What else are you going to do? You know what I mean? So I just called Jay, and I gave him the options. I told him that we troubleshooted for about an hour, hour and a half, and he's going to owe me about $100 just for my labor in troubleshooting, which I believe is fair, because an hour and a half of somebody's time troubleshooting it, it's the least you can do, right? So I put the air filter box back so that I don't forget it or lose it or something, because we know it's not that. I put this stuff back in because we know it's not the carburetor. Again, if the carburetor was clogged or there was something wrong with it, there's no way you can start it that easily and have it run on full throttle for over a minute. You know what I'm saying? So it's not the carburetor. It's not the fuel system, because we checked the lines and they're good, and we checked the fuel filter and it's good. It's not the spark arrestor, right? Because it was clean. Removing the muffler, checking the side of the piston, there was no scoring. So it's not the piston and rings and the bore or compression or the spark arrestor. It's not the recoil starter. It's not the spark plug, because we tried a new one and there was no difference whatsoever. So the only thing this could be is the ignition coil. But I told him there's no guarantee. I'm just telling you from the best of my knowledge and the troubleshooting we did, it's the only thing left. There's nothing else that it could be. It's got to be the ignition coil. So I told him a cheap Chinese knockoff aftermarket one is about $24.99 plus tax, so like $30. You can get one for $60 for the original OEM Husqvarna one, so it's double the money. $60 for OEM, $30 for aftermarket. He wants to go with the aftermarket. I told him he owed me $100 for the troubleshooting already, so he's in it for a C note. So $130, probably get away with that. But installing it and checking it out after I get it, you got to add another bit of money for installing it, right? So like, if I got this going with a new aftermarket magneto, he probably owe me $150, about. So I'm going to order the part today, and when it gets here in about a week or so like that, I'll do another video of how to install the magneto. But today was just troubleshooting this Husqvarna 580Bfs. This is a really, really good backpack blower. I was really surprised. I thought that Red Max was the shit, and it is. But I didn't think I'd run into another one that had equal or more power. This thing really kicks ass. This thing's a beast. Now I look at Husqvarna a little bit differently now. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share, because it helps me make more small engine equipment content like this one. We'll see you guys all next time. I'm Mowers and Blowers. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.
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 Subscribe. Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Subscribe. Subscribe to it.
It's me. Hi. We need you to donate $1 or $2.
Hit the subscribe button. It's free.
We'll see you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers.